Saturday afternoon and spending time with us. My name is Paula. I'm one of the staff members here at the LEC. We are very lucky to be joined by a really amazing human today, Lori, who is one of our FWC bear response contractors and was kind enough to come in and offer up this presentation for you guys today. So, unless you guys have any questions for me, go ahead and turn it over to Lori.
Do you want to click? You want me to click?
You can click. You want me to turn off the lights? I'm going to go ahead and turn the lights down just a little bit so we can get a better view of the screen. If it gets too loud out in the hall, I will close the door, but otherwise I'll leave it.
Okay, so we're going to go ahead. Here we go. Go ahead and get started. Let me go back to our picture here. So the Florida black bear, that's the only species of bear we have in the state. It's one of 16 subspecies. If you take a look at the, on this bear in particular, this is a new picture in the PowerPoint, but if you look at the white stripes on the chest, that's called a blaze. A lot of bears don't have that, they just have the regular black chest, but we do have some that have what we call a blaze. It can be a V, it can be white in color, it can be brown in color, it can be just a dot. So just a different kind of, this picture just happens to show it a different way to sort of see different things on bears. All right, so the bear range and population. If you take a look at this map, this shows you that bears used to be all over the state. And then they went through a period of time where they were overhunted years and years and years ago. There were only 500 in the state, and now they've come back to where they occupy 49% of where they used to. The dark brown areas are frequent. That's where we have a lot, like a large number of bears. The common, not uncommon to see them. Where you go to the occasional and the rare, especially with the rare, that's where we have a male or a female, but we don't have breeding pairs. In the rest of the areas, we actually have breeding pairs. Bears are considered habitat generalists, so they can find food sources in the majority of places throughout the state. And they also like to stay away from people. So they have the capacity to live close to people and close to our neighborhoods, but they also can, they like the dark, so they're active usually around night or dawn or dusk, and so they can skirt around our houses and still find some of the natural food sources that they like to eat. If you'll take a look, the Ocala St. John's, that's where we are, and that's 1,200, that's where the highest population of bears in the state is. So that's where we are actually home to the most bears in the state. So this shows you a little bit. Bears have territories and ranges. They're two different things. So that right there is going to be, the blue dots are going to be when you're looking at how much range and territory bears take. The blue dots are actually that's their range. And on this particular, this is actually from a study that was done. Those three marks are three different bears, three different male bears, and their average on this is 36 miles. So they are traveling, this group in particular, they travel in 36 square miles, whereas the females are usually much smaller. So you can see how the females, they're usually traveling with cubs, they're a little bit more careful. But that lets you see how the males and females travel throughout the state. The territory is something that bears don't share at all, but they will share ranges. So as we talk further through the PowerPoint, where the males are, they will let other bears come through at different times, just not in the same space at the same time. Whereas with the females in smaller areas, they also go through a time of family breakup, so she will allow female cubs, when it's time for her to kick them out, she will allow female cubs to stay in her same general area. But again, not at the same space or time. If she has male cubs, she chases them out to where they have to be completely outside, because as males grow and mature, they will come back and kill cubs to throw her back into estrus. So that just shows you range versus territory. So males versus female. We have a lot of folks that would look at this picture and say, wow, it's a mom and a cub. And it isn't. So that's a male on the left. That's a 350-pound male, and then the female's 150, but you can see that difference in their size. Males for Florida black bears are typically 250 to 450. The largest male in the state was 760 pounds, and it was in Apopka. They will cover 62 square miles in general, cover a lot of areas. That's why we have a lot of problems with bears, like getting into garbage and things, because they literally will go through a neighborhood on trash day. They'll keep on moving and hit the next trash day, so you might not see him come back until the next week or so, but they follow the pattern. So they'll travel to 62. They're much more risk-taking. The males are much more open with what they do. Whereas the females, they're generally 125 to 250 pounds. The largest female was 400 pounds, and she was actually hit by a car. They travel typically about 12 square miles, but 10 to 15. And they stay in that same general area, like that little pink box you saw, simply because every few years when she has cubs, she's trying to keep them protected and they cannot move as quick as she can. Okay? And so just more secret and be careful for our females. So bear breeding. This says June and July. We are finding that it actually goes into August. We're still, even this year, we're still finding breeding pairs now. Bears have this great adaptation. It's called, yes?
I have a statement.
Yes.
That baby is so adorable.
Cubs are very adorable. You were right. You were right. But I can tell you a very big secret. Do you want to know? They don't like to be around people at all. And I can tell you even a bigger secret. They really don't like to be held. Like everybody thinks it'd be so fun to hold a bear cub. They don't like it. Big claws. They don't like it at all. So here you go, something you didn't know. But they have this great adaptation called delayed implantation. So what that is once bears go through breeding season, they're not automatically pregnant. So the blastocysts, the eggs will fertilize, they'll just float around in suspended animation until she goes through our heavy eating period, which is what we'll be talking about in a minute. She goes through that hyperphagia time of eating as much as she can to put on as much weight as she can. How much weight she puts on, how many fat layers she puts on determines whether she has cubs or not. So if her body is able to sustain herself and two blastocysts will implant, she'll have 2. If she doesn't put on, if it's a bad year, if she doesn't put on enough weight at all, they slough right out of her body and never implant. So it is a type of way that they can help regulate their own population so she doesn't have a bunch of cubs that her body can't take care of. On the other side of that, if they're getting artificial food sources from humans, garbage, bird feeders, all of that kind of easy food stuff for them, they're putting on more calories, which means we're inflating the number of cubs she would have if she was just concentrating on natural food sources. So just sort of something to think about when people are seeing bears in their neighborhoods and stuff, getting into garbage and getting into bird feeders and cat food and stuff like that. She's putting on all these extra calories, and that could technically cause her to have more cubs than she would normally have on natural food sources, but that also transfers into more bears in her neighborhoods that can then get hit by cars as they're learning to try and navigate the world. Bears do hibernate. For a long time, people were saying that bears in Florida do not hibernate. They actually do hibernate, especially the females. So in order for the females to have cubs, she actually will den down. Her den may be in like a scrub area where she can hear branches crack and if anything comes up around her, so she can actually remove the cubs if she needs to. But they do actually bed down. And then all cubs are born in February in den. We give them the birth date of February 1st. But typically across the country, they're born the last week of January or the first week of February. Okay. Any questions on that particular piece? So this lets you see cubs. Here's a better picture for you to see adorable cubs. They're about 12 ounces of birth. That's the size of a soda can. 1 to 5 is a litter size. That really, again, depends on how much weight and fat layers she's put on during the fall. The average is 2 to 3. If she has 2, it's typically a male and a female. The most we've seen in this area that I'm aware of is 4 cubs. Okay, that means they're getting a lot of food if they're 4. Okay, they're typically 5 pounds by April. So even though when we come out of our heavy eating time, our winter season is over and we're into spring, most bears are moving around again. The females, you won't see them if they've just had cubs until April at some point, because at that point, they're big enough to maneuver around with her. Otherwise, she keeps them hidden and will forage, keep them up a tree. We do have cubs. The cubs will stay for 1.5 years with mom. That's the perfect world. Okay, we'd like them to be able to stay with them the first year, so they're born in February. They're with them through the next February, so that first winter. and then they go into the following season before they're kicked out. So they're like a year and a half before they usually leave mom. Yearlings. Lots of yearlings have been in the news this year. We had the one at Lyonia. We still have a couple that are moving around College Park. Yes, ma'am?
What's a yearling?
That's what we're going to talk about. So a yearling is a bear that's a year and a half old. So they've gone through their time together. She's raised all of her cubs. Mom is now ready to go back into her breeding season. When that happens, they go through what's called family breakup. So everything is hunky-dory in the family one day, and the next day she's yelling at them and biting at them and chasing them away. It's very traumatic for bears, as you can imagine. Life was fine, and now mom's like being mean and chasing them off. She does that. Number one, she wants them to be safe from the male bears if she's getting ready to go back into breeding season. And she's taught them everything she knows about how to eat. Okay? So that can be good and bad. If there are natural food sources, that's great. But if it's a female that's been getting into neighborhoods and garbage and stuff, she's also taught the cubs that. But yearlings are bears that are a year and a half old, so they're still sort of like teenage bears. Okay, so those are the bears that you do see every year in the spring in places where we really shouldn't see bears. And it's hard to be a young male because they have to move themselves out of the area that they have grown up in. They also have to fight for an area and find an area where large male bears aren't, because they will be killed, or other young males that are also looking for the same kind of area. You can tell the yearlings typically, you can see here on the pictures, they've got the big Mickey Mouse ears. The ears almost don't look like they go with the body. That's how you know it's a younger bear. As they start to age, the heads fill out just a little bit, and the ears look more, they look like they go with the body more. However, our females a lot of times will have the ears that stay a little bit larger than the head. So what do black bears eat? 73% of their diet are plants, 22% are insects. They're doing things like colonial type of insects. They can take their claws, they can dig out a log, and they're going for ants and termites and all the things that live in logs. Takes, one strike and they've got a big meal. They also, yes, they'll eat honey, but what they're really after when they're going after bees and the honey is really the little ant larva, the bee larva. That's what they're really going after. That's a big protein hit for bears. Meat is 5%. That's typically things that are dead or that play dead. Occasionally, depending on the time of year, they may go after chickens or some kind of, pigs, that kind of thing. A deer, fawn if it's being stashed, but that's for the protein hit. It's really much easier for a bear. They're really smart enough to be lazy, so they're going to go for that easiest meal and expend as little energy as possible. So they're not really going to be chasing down a deer when they might have 1 in 10 chances of catching them, when they can just sit in front of a garbage can and get more calories than they need a day from that. So what are the seasonal food habits of a Florida black bear? So spring is the season mother bears and cubs, like we said, they come out of their dens. Normally that's around April. The cubs have been getting really rich milk from her, and they will still nurse from her until they're almost a year old. So they'll still get supplemental milk even when she's teaching them how to eat real foods. She hasn't been eating a lot because she's been with them in a den. So they come out springtime foods, new grasses, forbs, berries, and insects. They're coming out because she also is starting to eat again. She's teaching them new foods to eat. So bears very quickly learn, hey, muscadine grapes, I really like these. So she teaches them what's edible throughout the year. That's how they learn. That's really how they learn their eating patterns. We go into summer, it's very active. We've had a very busy summer so far. It looks like fall's going to be just as crazy. Cubs are out of the den. She gives them a little more freedom. So if you see, a bear sitting at the base of a tree sometimes, cubs are up the tree. She may leave them up there while she's going to forage, but they get a little bit more space. They get a little bit more distance from each other. You'll see with yearlings, if they've been with that bear going into the second season, when she's starting to get ready to go back into estrus again, she's paying more attention to the adult males. So the bears maybe a couple houses down, they'd be far enough away. She's still in the area, but not right on top of them like they are when they're really little cubs. Because of the shift, the family bond weekends, that's when you see what we call family breakup. Okay, so we've had that going on since the spring. Many berries and insects are at their peak during summer. So that's the really cool thing about Florida is because we have a lot of warm weather, we always have seasonal foods coming by for bears, and bears will eat something different every season. So when you hear people say there's not enough food in the wild, there is, because one, maybe we had a horrible, I don't know, maybe we didn't have a good hard massed year, there's not a lot of acorns out there, but there's plenty of other things for them to eat. So they're really able to eat and find food anywhere. Yes?
I was just wondering if Florida black bears could eat fish like the ones in Alaska.
That's a great question. Florida black bears don't eat a lot of fish. Usually you've got the brown bears out west that you see on TV a lot with the salmon and stuff like that. Those are usually out west. The Florida black bears don't really eat. In fact, we've tried before when we have to catch a bear, if we're going to move it or something, they're not really interested in fish. They really do go for a lot of the natural food sources. What they will go after a lot, though, just coming back to your question about what they do eat, they will go after a bird feeder like nobody's business. So they'll dump it. They can get more calories than they need in several days from a bird feeder. And then we keep filling it up, so they keep coming back. So they're getting fat, eating a lot of bird seed and cat food, stuff like that. So they do eat a lot of stuff that they wouldn't, that the brown bears you're talking about wouldn't eat. That's a great question. So going into fall, acorns are one of a bear's favorite foods. You may see them up in a tree and they'll eat acorns 18 hours a day. In fact, this is the time of year, if you live in an area that has bears or you see it on Nextdoor or on social media, they will be out 18 hours a day. And people get a little panicked, like, I thought we weren't supposed to see bears except dawn and dusk and overnight. Right now, they're gearing up, and you will see daytime activity is not uncommon because they're just trying to get themselves ready for their hyperphagia, for their denning up. So pregnant females are preparing for denning, so they're all just trying to eat as much as they can. You typically won't see multiple bears at a food source. They're very solitary animals unless it's a mom with cubs. Mom and dads do not, if you ever see two together, mom and dads do not hang out together. So if you see two bears together, it's usually a mom and a cub. That's what you're typically seeing. And then, as it says, luckily Mother Nature helps by providing lots of different food sources to get them ready for that hyperphagia time frame, to get them ready for that denning up. Winter. Winter is the season of fasting. So den females have slowed their metabolism down. It's not because of cold, it really is because of food sources, which a lot of times you'll hear on the news about the past few years in particular. They've been talking about out west, bears are coming out of hibernation early and earlier because it's getting warmer sooner. So that's what we see across the board. It's about food, it really isn't about the cold weather. Pregnant females will den early, so they usually, if their body has gone ahead and she is pregnant, they will probably disappear November, December, and you won't see them again really up and roaming until after the first of the year. Our large males, if there's a food source available, they may not bed down at all. Their metabolism does slow down. We'll get calls, and somebody will call into FWC and they'll say, "I've got a bear that's injured in my backyard." And FWC will send someone out like myself, a contractor. We'll go out and break some sticks, and the bear stands up and looks at you and sort of rolls to the next yard, or just to the wood line and plops down. And what that is that their metabolism is so slow. Some of the larger bears can't run as fast because their metabolism is so slow, but they really aren't injured. They're really just their metabolism slowing down for a wood line. Yes?
With the bears, we have a fairly large parcel of land,
Uh-huh.
and I don't know, like you hear, cover your trash cans and things like that, but I see you have, on the picture, it was like metal cans. We have big plastic bins. I mean, if they're on the property, obviously, then you take them out to the front of the property. Like, what is the best way, the best time, how to handle that? Because I don't want them coming on the yard, obviously, because you have small children and dogs and things like that. How should we handle that kind of situation?
We have a whole section coming up If I don't answer that question, flag me down when we get to garbage, or you let me know if I don't hit it. But yeah, there are several different ways you can handle it, and we'll cover that.
But there's a number that we would call if there were.
There is a number you call, but there are ways that we actually will advise you to keep your can secured until the morning of pickup.
I mean, if there was a bear, for example, on the property.
You can call that in. A bear being on the property is not always, depending on where you live, it's not always a cause for concern.
Okay.
But yes, if you see when you call FWC, it goes on a map. Like literally every call is placed on a map. And as we're looking at the map, you know, the biologist will look at the maps and go, okay, we've had 4 calls from this general area. Maybe we need to go out there and do some canvassing and talk to people and see what's going on and let them know more information. Sometimes they're just passing through.
Okay, that's more.
And we don't have a way to know that really. But they will stick where a food source is. If they get rewarded from a really good trash can or livestock, food, or something like that, they will continue to come back. So definitely, let's talk about that.
In the livestock, we want to go.
Yeah, we need to talk.
Thank you.
We actually can come out and help set up electric fencing if you don't have that,
Really?
and that kind of thing. Yeah,
Okay,
Definitely.
definitely talk about that. Thank you.
definitely. So I've got this picture over here for you to look at as well, but this just sort of shows you how many calories it takes for bears and how that averages out. So if you look like at the bottom birdseed, calories from 7 pounds, over 12,000 calories from 7 pounds of birdseed. They would need to eat over 3,000 acorns to make up for that. I mean, that's just a no-brainer for a bear. And then again, like I said, it's constantly being refilled. So they're here one day, they drain it. Okay, I come back the next day, it's there again. And a lot of times bears do this and people don't realize they have a bear in the area. They just come out and they think it's a raccoon because the bird feeder's bent or down. If it's bent over and broken, it's typically a bear. But even if you look at like sunflower seeds, the KFC chicken combo, they get some leftovers that we don't eat out after KFC. That's 1,700 calories. They'd have to eat 400 acorns for that. So when you think about that, a bear that's going from 5,000 calories a day into the fall, they're eating 18 hours a day and 20,000 calories. That's like eating like over 10 large pizzas in a day. So I mean, that's the difference in a bear, 5,000 to 20,000 calories. So it's just interesting too. We have a lot of problems in some areas with people leaving garage doors open. And garage doors mean a lot of time refrigerators and freezers that are inside, or stored dog food, or stored bird seed. And once a bear goes into that, they get into that ice cream or those sodas or whatever, they will check every garage door from there on out. And those calories are really, really adding up. So bear behavior, like I said earlier, bears it's called crepuscular. They are active dawn and dusk, and then overnight. So our more urban bears that actually are familiar with the urban areas now, a lot of times they will be active overnight when humans usually aren't so busy. Bears are extremely curious animals. I'm sure, especially, you know, if you were talking about seeing bears eat a lot of salmon and stuff, you've probably seen pictures of bears doing crazy things like getting into swimming pools and doing stuff like that. Happens in Florida. But bears are very curious animals. We've been sitting on calls before where people pull the big, at Christmas time, they put out the big blow-ups, and people get really mad that bears destroy them. But I mean, imagine a bear seeing this giant polar bear blow up. It's coming up and batting around with it. It looks like it's sort of playing with it, and then all of a sudden it's gone. So I mean, they popped it. So bears really are extremely curious animals. It is not true that when they stand up like this that they are being aggressive. Okay? So bears have eyesight similar to humans. I'll get you in just a second. They have eyesight that's very similar to humans. Their ears, they hear very well, but their superpower hero is their nose. Okay? They can smell from at least a mile away. And what that means is, you know, if we're all outside having a picnic, a bear can literally be as far away we can't even see him, and he knows who's having a hamburger, who's having a hot dog, who has ketchup and mustard on it. They can smell everything like that. So they can smell 7 times better than a bloodhound, that's 300 times better than a human. Okay, so their nose really gets them into trouble. So when they stand upright, you'll see them air scent like a dog, their nose goes in the air. They're trying to either see or smell what might be coming at them. Okay, so it really is just a way for them to see or smell. It is not aggressive. And to be honest, if they started walking towards you, they lose all cool points because it looks like they're waddling like a penguin. Okay, it really is not, they can't make any time when they're up like that. So that's what they're up for. So avoidance. They really don't want to have anything to do with people. And the natural bear behavior is to be afraid and stay away from people. 90% of the time, they're going to run up a tree or they're going to hide. When they climb up a tree, they're either hiding like this, they don't like what's going on the ground, or they're eating. Now in this case, if you look at the bottom, that's a house cat. Okay, this was actually on National Geographic several years ago, and that cat treed that bear 3 times. Every time the bear came down the tree, the cat ran after it from the porch and set the bear right up a tree again. Okay, so doesn't like, I mean, cats are a thing for bears, but then you turn around and dogs are, we were talking about this while we were getting ready, dogs are another big issue. We're going to talk about that too. So this is a video that's going to show you how a bear really, their world is surrounded, they dominate their world through nose. They navigate through their nose rather than their eyes. This is a hunter in a tree stand in Minnesota. Nothing bad happens. But this is his boot at the bottom.
Uneasy happiness.
Hey, what are you doing there? What are you doing there?
Guys, Daddy, do the ghost.
That's how easy it should be to scare a bear away. Okay, they really don't have anything to do with people. My guess is he's been up in that tree stand before, and nobody was there, so he's just like, and then here's the voice, oh my. So it should really be that easy to scare a bear away. Yes.
About a week or 2 ago, I was riding around on my bike with some friends, and getting back to the house to rest, drink water, and then see a bear.
Mm-hmm.
Getting a trash can. There's no trash in it because the trash man already came through. It said it was probably like 4, and then we left him for about 30 minutes to an hour before we even thought about going back out. And when we went back out, we thought he went into the big bushel of woods right there. Was going, we go down, and nobody walks straight out of the backyard, right next to us.
Well, the trash cans, even though it's empty, it still smells.
Yeah.
So they're back there for that smell. And the other thing too are, and we'll cover this a little bit later, but bears are very visual. So even, we say this about camping, bears will get into a cooler on a campsite. It usually has meat or, that kind of stuff in it. Your food, your sugary drinks are in there, and once they get a reward like that, they will check out again every single cooler. Same thing is true with the trash can, and that just sort of proves the point where it's empty, but it's still looking for food because it's gotten it there before. So yes.
So speaking of like bears and their curiosity, one time me and Mom were watching some videos. It was on her Facebook page, and we came across a video where this bear just hopped up on a circle swing and started swinging. Then there's also that video of a sheep jumping on a trampoline, but that's a different story.
Yes, they like to do stuff like that. So yeah, you're finding all the good stuff, bears too.
You find the good stuff.
All the good stuff. Yes.
I didn't think adult bears were climb trees.
They do climb trees. In fact, you've seen pictures of the big brown bears out west, like the grizzly bears?
Yes.
They have very different claws. So when you look at my bear over here that we have, this one was hit by a car, but you'll get a chance to see him up close and personal. If you look at his claws, they're curved. And that's what they do, that's what they use them for. It's not used for, with the brown bears, they use it a lot for prey. But, and the brown bears don't climb trees really often. With black bears, they're curved this way, that lets them clear open the logs to get all those ants and termites out of, and then climb trees. They can climb trees really, really fast. So they run 35 miles an hour, and then they hop up a tree, and they're up the top before, I mean, you can't even count to 5, and they're up the top of the tree. So that's what the claws are for. So that is a good question, yeah. Yes?
Is that a real bear?
This is a real bear. This is Lyonia's bear. And this is a bear that was hit by a car, but it lets you see size differently than the bear I have. So,
It says I can't be a bear.
I can't bear to be touched. They don't want him touched, yeah, because they get the fur and stuff starts to wear. Oh, there you go.
Yeah, it's a wrap.
If they sound the rap because they don't want the mouse to know that it's going to get eaten. But if they're like warning you, hey, you're coming a little bit too close, they sound that rattle off. So that's their defense. That's their defensive mechanism. It lets you know, hey, you're getting too close. Bears are the same way, okay? They are very obvious when they are uncomfortable. They do something called a bluff charge. You're going to see a video of what that looks like. It looks very much like a charge that they're coming right at you and not going to stop, except they do charge. Except they do stop. So their jaws pop, they huff a lot of air out of their nose, blow just a lot of air out of their nose. Their ears are usually pinned back, and they don't make eye contact. So it's a rushing motion at you, air comes out, they sometimes slap the ground. It's their way of saying, hey, I need my personal space, give it to me. It's just, you're too close. The nice thing about that is we can de-escalate that. Okay, we see that from a bear, we're too close, we need to honor that. We need to give the bear more space, back away slowly, and we can de-escalate what that looks like and their response to make them more comfortable. So this is one where the biologist actually did this on purpose so that you can see she has cubs up a tree. So this is a mom with cubs up a tree. You're going to see her do the jaw popping, you're going to see her do a little bit of a ground stomp, she huffs. You're going to hear her blow all that nose out of, or all the air out of her nose, and then you're going to hear her jaws pop. And her ears will also be back. That lets you, if that doesn't tell you that she's uncomfortable and you need some space, I don't know what will. Okay? Just saying, hey, you're too close, I need you to back away. And then she turns and walks away. Clearly if she wanted to hurt somebody, she could have. That's not what they're after. They're not trying to do any injuries to people, they're just letting us know that we're too close. Their thought process is from a natural bear behavior point. If you're walking in the woods and you look up and there's a bear and he's eating and he looks up and looks at you, okay, that's pretty cool, I get to see a bear in a natural environment. If he goes back to eating again, enjoy the moment, don't get any closer, enjoy the moment and move on. If you're looking at a bear and it's eating and it looks up at you and it's just watching you and it's still watching you and it doesn't go back to eating, you're too close, give it a little bit more space. Okay? If the bear changes its behavior because you're there, you're too close. Okay? Human influence. So 21.78 million residents plus over 136 million visitors every year. Okay, I know when I was doing I was working on a project back in 2020 actually, and we had 900 people moving to Florida every single day. Since 2020, that number is now up to over 1,000. So over 1,000 people moving to Florida every day. We're going to be having more interactions because our bear population is growing, our human population is growing. We're going to be having more interactions. They're not all negative. I'm not talking about like attacks or anything. We're just going to have bears and people becoming more in areas together. So we have what's called habituation. You'll hear this sometimes. It's a technical term that means the bear is habituated to people, which means it's used to people. Okay? It's accustomed to being in an area where people are. These are bears that you see on the news sometime where people are like, oh, we know that bear. It just walks through the neighborhood. Okay? That's really technically not okay. You should still be making some noise for that bear. But it's a bear that's like, yeah, there's people, car horns, not a big deal. I'm just going to keep on moseying along. Food condition. That's where a bear understands that food comes from humans. Okay? Also, not necessarily a bad thing. It's where you have, because a food conditioned bear is a bear that's not going to approach people for it. It's just aware food and humans can be in the same spot, okay? When you have a bear that's food conditioned and habituated, that's a bear that has a strong association with people and food and is not afraid anymore to come up close to get it. Okay, that's when you hear people on the news talking, or with FWC when they're doing interviews talking about public safety threats. That's a bear that is no longer exhibiting natural bear behavior. When that happens, that's when a bear is usually trapped and killed, because it is no longer exhibiting natural bear behavior, and that's when people can get injured. Okay? In fact, take a look. This was actually off the news up north, but a bear walks right up to them they're having a picnic at a table at a campsite, I believe, and the bear walks right up to them. Most bears would not do that. Okay, they might come close and hang out in the back and smell, but they would never be doing this behavior. Common conflicts. What kinds of things do we see that are problems with bears? Number one, garbage. That's one of our biggest. It's just too easy for bears to get a lot of food that way, and very quickly they learn what a trash can is. Bird feeders. That's the second one. Pet food, the bowl here, some kind of food that's been left out. Grills, if you live in bear country, you need to clean your grills off. We've had bears where people in bear country where bears are prevalent and well known to be there. We have people that will like fry a turkey for the holidays and not empty it. And a bear will come through a screen patio to go after that grill because it's got all the smells that would bring a bear right in. And dogs are a huge thing. We talked about that a little bit early on. They really don't get along well together. We have dogs killed every year, multiple dogs killed every year by bears. Okay? Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, I was talking to Mr. Stephen, I missed the bear-dog interaction. Can you just kind of recap it for me, because we have several?
Yeah, if you live in bear country, you want the dogs to stay on leash.
Is Lake City bear country?
It can be. You have bears in Lake, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, recap that.
Well, and they're also, even if there aren't, well, Paula lives in a neighborhood not too far from here, and she sees bears from time to time in her backyard. Okay. So I mean, yeah, any of those places can have bears, and even if you live in an area that doesn't have a lot of bears, you still need to be careful. If you see on next door something that there's one in the area, you need to be advised, okay, there's one not too far from here, so I need to go into this mode. I need to secure my garbage. I need to keep my dogs on leash.
So with the dogs, not to let them roam in the yard. You said they don't really get along necessarily. Versus...
Yeah, we've had several instances recently where a bear is here and a dog comes around the corner, or a dog is approaching. The dog runs off, chases the bear. Oh my gosh, what have I done? And either the bear takes care of the dog right then and there, or the dog turns around and runs towards the person to try and get back to safety again, and now that dog's just brought a bear right to the person. Mm-hmm. And we say don't use non-retractable leashes, where you can actually keep the dog under control, because that way, if you're walking, you want to make sure if you walk your dog that you always have a flashlight with you, so that you can sort of see what's going around, make noise before you come and go, so you don't walk out and startle one. But really with dogs, it's a matter of, if you see a bear over here, you don't even try. You back away slowly until you feel safe enough to walk the other way. And we'll cover this in more detail. Yeah.
With bears, even if you have like a high fence that they can't climb, they will bust straight through it.
Yes.
And they don't need a lot of room. They need maybe that much room, and they can just bust straight through. We've had multiple bears do that, even though we have an open gate on the other side.
Yep. Bears think like a straight line. Like they follow things like the power poles or water. They will follow things like that. So all they know is I smell a trash can that way, or I smell something really good that way. They're not navigating, well, I can take 2 steps over and walk through the gate. They're like, I'm going right here, and I'm just going to put my head down and go right to the fence if I can't go over it. So yeah, you are absolutely correct. Yes?
So we have many bears get into our garbage like every night.
Every night? You know what? We can talk about that. We can give you, afterwards, we can give you some easy things to do that could help fix that.
That's my neighborhood.
Ah, okay, there you go.
Yeah, they're in my neighborhood.
There you go. So we can talk about some things that will help that. So this is from 2002 to 2021. We had over 84,000 calls. And this just shows you what the bear calls were about. So in reality, if you take a look at the general interaction, that's 40% of the calls. Those are, I had a bear in my yard. I saw a bear walking down the road. I just saw a bear. It's a bear sighting. In garbage, 30%. And in most cases, those general interaction bears will soon become the in garbage bears. All right, and the in garbage bears typically become the property damage bears because they're doing things like you just said. They're breaking down a fence and just, going wherever it is. They're breaking bird feeders down, that kind of thing. So if we took care of the garbage, over 70% of their issues would go away.
And Lori, is it bears doing illegal activity? That's less than
Oh, illegal, the less than 1%, the illegal activity is where somebody shoots a bear. It's illegal to shoot bears. That's where, or people are feeding them. It's also illegal to feed bears. So illegal activity would be if someone has piles out of food because they like to see the bears, they can take really good pictures, which happens a whole lot more often than you would think.
With the, shooting a bear, what are, the fines and consequences, and what happens if it's in more self-defense, like the bear's charging at me and my family?
Awesome question.
There's a really fine line there. So if a bear is charging at you and it's self-defense, like a bear is coming right at me and I have no other choice. I can't get inside, I can't get behind a car, I can't do anything else. There will always be an investigation. So any kinds of video are going to be looked at, any kinds of pattern of behavior in the neighborhoods are going to be, in that neighborhood's going to be looked at, so there's always going to be an investigation. If it's in self-defense like that, most likely not going to be fined. However, if it's your dog's off leash and you know you live in a bear area and the dog just takes off, you cannot shoot a bear just because it's threatening your dog, because there are, most cases you're aware that you have bears. And I don't actually have a slide on this one, but when we're done, I'll have Paula pull up something else, and it lists for crocodiles, for alligators, and for crocodiles and bears, it lists all the fines. So we'll go over that so you can see it. But yeah, that's a really good question too. Yes, so we don't want, let me go back and to that too. We're not saying a bear's life is more important than a person's life. Certainly, if you're feeling threatened, you do what you think is necessary. But you can't go out just because a bear is getting into your garbage can or doing something you don't like, breaking down your bird feeders and shoot it for that reason. Does that help?
Yeah.
Does that help you too a little bit?
Yeah.
I saw the look on your face, I'm like, okay, you're trying to figure that out.
It's got a big, we have 10 acres and, if our children are playing on one part of the property and then, my husband and I are on another part of the property, I don't know if there's a bear on the property. Our daughter's, she's licensed to carry, so she's going to defend herself. She's going to defend, her brother. Is that okay to do? Or is it not okay to do? The line,
It's really if a bear is coming and you think it's attacking,
right?
yes. But we have things that you can do so that it doesn't get that far.
Okay.
Like over here, I got some whistles. So we're going to cover a little bit here coming up on what you can do to ways you can make noise, a way to deter bears, so that's not really an issue.
Okay.
Okay? And then if you do those things that we'll talk about, if you put up, and this will make sense in a moment, if you put up a water scarecrow, if you put up a critter getter, if you do all these different things that FWC would tell you to do to keep a bear away from your property,
Okay.
and the bear is still coming, then there are other things that we can do to help you beyond that. Is that
That's
okay? Yeah, so there are things that we're going to cover that you can do that will make you feel more safe and keep the bear safe as well and out of your things.
Okay.
Bear neighborhoods, you see this on the news all the time. If it's in a tree, it's scared or eaten. Okay, and the more people that come to the bottom of the tree to look at it, we're just putting off the inevitable and making it longer, and it's more stressful for the bear. So if you have a bear in your yard, up a tree, and you feel like you have to get a picture, take your picture and then go back inside. Don't let a bunch of neighbors come under there, because if a bear wants to come down out of that tree, it's coming down out of the tree. Now typically it's gonna stay up there and until it's dark and it's quiet, and then you'll come out the next morning, it's gone. It's just waiting for it to be quiet again and dark so it can come down and leave. If it found its way into a neighborhood and there are not food sources keeping it there, it will find its way out. Okay, so you'll see sometimes, you'll hear on the news, are people doing anything about this bear at Lake Eola? Well, we were, but we were also watching it on a map, trying to give it a chance to continue moving in a direction that it was moving to get to the next corridor area. When it stops and stays in a spot too long, then we will go out and set some traps and try to move it that way. So you allow them to find their way out. You never chase or corner a bear. Okay? And a lot of times we have issues with dogs and bears. Sometimes it's a cornered situation, and bears have no choice but to come right back out. Okay? So this is the mortality rate for the statewide mortality rate. The red, if you look, are vehicle strikes. So we lose over 200 bears every single year to vehicle strikes. The past 2 years have been our highest yet. We don't have a hunting season. We had a hunting season in 2015. 304 bears were killed. That's why the blue line is there, but we haven't had a hunting season since. Illegal kills, those are the yellow, where someone has a bear in their yard and they shoot it. And in management, the green, those are bears that FWC traps and kills because they are being public safety threats. Okay, so that's what those are.
What is the gray for?
That's others.
What's the gray? It's just others. It can be odd things that happen that just don't fall under any other category. That's all. Commercial garbage, this just covers the dumpsters and stuff. Bears love dumpsters. If you have a business or live near businesses and there is a known bear problem, I highly recommend that you call FWC to let them know about that. But there are ways to put a latching mechanism right on the side of the door so bears just can't flip that open. There are different kinds of lids that are reinforced and a bar goes up so that they can't just get into the into the dumpster that way. But you can also see the problem is overfill. Same things happen with trash cans. People get a bear resistant can and then fill it up so much that the top doesn't shut. It's not bear resistant if you can't lock it. Okay. Residential garbage, you want to secure that until the morning of pickup. If you have a garage, keep it in a garage. There are different ways we're going to see where you can build a caddy that a bear can't get into. You can electric fence it. There's ways you can electric fence around your can. There are different ways that you can put a top that's almost an electric topping to your can. So if a bear touches it, it's like an electric fence. Or you can buy a bear resistant can. There also is a strapping system that you can put on your trash can. It does not make it bear resistant, but it is a Band-Aid. It does help to where the bear just can't walk up and get into the trash can. And we've got information on that as well. So you can see these two different hasping systems are both on our website. So if you have a good sturdy can, those are ways that you can make your can more unattractive for bears.
With the hasping, these are the kind of cans that we have in town. Would the trash pickup still pick them up? Would that be a problem for them having to dump the can?
Well, you actually undo it the morning of pickup.
Okay.
So when you take it to wherever they pick it up, you undo the hasp or you undo the straps.
Okay.
So is it possible for a bear to get into it the morning of pickup? Yes.
But again, if the hasp is on there, that's one of those things, it's a deterrent. You're trying to.
Right, and at that point, if the can is sitting outside, you don't have a garage to put it in or a place to store it or a caddy, at least that allows, a bear may still get into it, but they may try and go, well, it's not as easy as the regular cans and walk away. Okay. So then when you put it to the street the morning of pickup, you undo those so the trash people just pick it up and dump it. They don't have to worry about it. Put the can, they put peanut butter and all kinds of stuff that would really get a bear's attention into the can, unlock it, and see if the bear actually has the ability to rip it open or if they get bored and leave. So they're actually, to be called bear resistant, they truly go through a testing system to be bear resistant. This is actually in my area. Garage door was up, and you can't see it on this one, but the trash can is inside the garage. So the trash can's inside the garage, which is great, they're doing the right thing, but then they leave their garage door up all day. Bear still smells it, they don't understand that there's a threshold there that they're going into, came right out with a pizza box. Okay? So definitely, if you live in a bear area, have your garage door open if you're working in your yard, but if you're going inside for lunch, close it. There are areas where bears know the sound of a garage door opening and will be in the wood line to be listening for garage doors going up. Okay, that's not what we want. So. Gardens, livestock, and bee yards. Electric fencing really does work well. I'm really not sure that this video is going to work, but if it does, it shows you how it works. Up there. Okay, it's a good shock. But they're like, yeah, I don't think I'm going to go right back there again.
But what's that there?
We can buy these for our properties? These are not.
Electric fencing? Mm-hmm.
Oh, and it's legal?
Electric fencing?
Yeah.
If you're not, some HOAs, you can't.
Okay, no.
But yes, we can definitely do them on your property. And this, I mean, this shows you how, I mean, you see that bear's like, I'm gonna keep trying it, and finally he gives up. Okay, so they do work. A lot of times FWC will come out and help you pick it up, help you put it up. We have a testing mechanism where if you put it up, we'll come out and check it to make sure it's the right, that you've got it set at the right voltage that you want it to, or that kind of thing. And sometimes we'll tell you to bait it. We'll say put bacon on it once it's set. If you've got a bear that's been visiting over and over again and now you've got an electric fence, let him come up, take a bite, and let's just end it now. You know? Yes.
We have brown
I heard that back there.
We have brown bears and black bears, like almost on every night.
Almost every night. There's still Florida black bears. A black bear can look black. Like if you look over Bernard over here, he has a little bit more of a light, he has some light shades on him. And there are even bears in parts of the state that get, like down south, they're more of a cinnamon color sometimes. Sometimes they can get sun-bleached out, but they're still all black bears.
This is my teddy bear. Her name is Snowy.
Snowy? She's a little bit light colored.
Yeah.
I don't know. Is she a black bear though?
No,
No, you don't think so?
no, she's not.
Okay.
She's like this light brown type of bear,
Okay.
and her snout right here is like a dark light brown type. Yeah.
Okay, so she's not a Florida bear, she's your bear.
Yeah.
Okay.
I got her Build-A-Bear.
I love Build-A-Bear.
Yeah, that's
can-
where I got her vest.
You can make Winnie the Pooh's at Build-A-Bear now. Did you know that?
No,
Yes.
I got it to my sister. That
Yes, you can. You gotta tell her that. I know
She
that.
adores Winnie the Pooh.
So bird feeders. We live in an area, lots of naturalists, lots of people who like to feed birds. And it has to be 4 feet away from a tree and at least 10 feet suspended. If you're gonna keep it up, we really would prefer during months when bears are active that you take them down. However, lots of folks do not want to take them down. They really like to see their birds. And so at that point, either take them down overnight or suspend them in a way where it's not easy for bears to get to it. However, this is what this bear did.
Wait, I didn't see that part.
You want to see it again?
So the feeder should be 10 feet high.
That bear is nonsense.
That's a bear who smells that food. That's how
Oh,
intent
my
they can be to
goodness.
get that food. Now what I can tell you is he falls and goes right back around and does it again.
And keeps doing it over
So,
and over.
That
and
just
over
shows you,
again.
I mean, we can tell you to do all the right things, and a bear can still be a bear. So this is the pet safety piece. Dogs are a known trigger for bears. If you have to feed pets outside, only single portions and then take the food away. If you leave the food bowl out that had cat food in it, it still smells like cat food. Okay? We have folks that will leave their garage door open for cats to get in and leave cat food inside there. Bear can just go right under or break the door to go right into it, okay? Remove the bowls as soon as it's finished. From the dog perspective, I can tell you that if you free feed a dog and just leave it out all day, it will take a few days for the dog to learn, but if it's an outside dog, it still will learn, I need to eat in this 10-minute time frame, or I don't get to eat again until the next day or another part of the day. Okay? If you see a bear, bring your dog inside. Don't allow it to bark at or harass a bear, even from an inside a fenced yard. Remember, bears can get into a fenced yard, they'll go up and over or right through, and they really don't get along. Non-retractable leash at all times. If you live in a bear area, you need to be really aware of what's going on in your yard before you let your dogs out. And if you walk around the neighborhood, keep them on leash. Avoid walking at dawn, dusk, or at night in areas that you know has a bear or there's known bear activity during that time of the year. If you have to, some people work different schedules and they have no other time to walk the dog. Make sure you have a flashlight, make sure you have something to make noise, an air horn, whistle, something to make noise, and be very, don't walk with earbuds in so that you can hear what's going on around you, okay? Secure attractants such as garbage, pet food, and bird seed. Bears do become protective of food sources. Okay, if they get into it enough, it's theirs. This slide, FYI, this was a family that was trapped in Longwood and was relocated to the forest.
We lived in Longwood.
Mm-hmm.
We wanted to fish like a big piece of salmon, and we forgot about it. So when bags we threw away the night before trash day. My mom gets up in the morning, had to call her boss out here that she was gonna be late, and he said, I need an excuse. Like, what's your excuse? There was 3 baby cubs, and then a mama.
Yep.
Next to her Jeep.
Yep. They will. FWC gets those kind of calls too. People are like, I can't get to my front door because there's a bear there. And we usually tell them to make some noise, different things that you can do. But if you live in a bear area, we also say you want to make sure you have bear spray in your car, something that you can move back and forth with you, an air horn, so that you don't get stuck like that. Most of the time, they will move out of the way. Sows are incredibly protective of their cubs and will defend them. That people go back and forth on, is that true or is it not true? They absolutely will protect their cubs. Gardens, livestock, and bee yards. This just shows you, we have a bunch of how-to videos, ways that you can electric fence it. And a lot of times bears will come in, especially in the winter months. They need a hit of protein. They may come into a unelectrified yard to grab a pig or to come after the feed that's left down. So if you have livestock, you do want to make sure that that food, whatever they eat, is picked up and not left overnight. Yes?
So when will we be able to look at the jaws?
The jaws, we're going to do that when we're done. Okay? I promise. I've got one, and I think Miss Paula has one. Okay, solutions. Anything that attracts dogs, cats, or raccoons will also attract bears. If it feeds another animal, it will feed a bear. Garbage is a strong bear attractant, even just the visual of the garbage bag. So bring pet food inside. Make sure it's stored securely. If you keep it in your garage, make sure your garage door is down. If they're smelling a mile away and your garage door is up, they know where that dog food is, or pet food. Store trash in a secure building until the morning of pickup, and have the trash placed inside a bear-resistant trash can, or in your case, like we were talking about, retrofitting, so it can be picked up. Screened enclosures are not secure. Okay, so we get calls a lot of times, people are unhappy because a bear came into their pool refrigerator out on their deck. That's not secure. A bear doesn't understand that screening is a place it's not supposed to come. It smells that food through there, or the trash that's in that area through there, and can come right on in. You can protect gardens, compost, and livestock with electric fencing. Make sure you clean your grills and keep it in a secure area.
That's what we
And then,
do
yep,
every time we grill.
that's what you need to do. And then remove wildlife feeders, bird feeders, whatever. So we've had 36 verified incidents of bear contact with people in Florida. Okay, 100% since 2006. 69% occurred in Central Florida. 50% were female with young. And where we knew the sex of the bear, that 90% was female with young. 61% involved a dog. Okay, so that shows you how the dogs and the bears are triggers for each other. 50% were moderate to serious injuries, and 50% were an intentional interaction. Okay, those are times when people are purposely trying to feed a bear. We have people that will hand feed bears. If a bear approaches you, 9 times out of 10, it's a defensive thing, you know, with a bear. You want to stand your ground. Big movements, hey bear, it's me, make yourself look bigger. If there's a group of you, get into a group, arms up, hey bear. You want to do anything you can to stay right there to let a bear know, yeah, we're no threat to you, you just need to move on the way. Make some noise, that kind of thing. If for some reason it's predatory, and like I said, these are extremely rare. A lot of times these are brown bears more than the black bears. But if it is a bear that's like coming after you no matter what, and a bear actually makes contact with you, you fight back with everything you have. Okay, you do not lay down, play dead. With a black bear, if it does make contact with you, you fight back. But throw things, do whatever you can. If it's coming towards you and will not stop, that's when you're just throwing whatever you can at it, and doing whatever you can to make noise enough. Questions on that? Yes.
So if black bear ever approaches us, if we find the branches with bugs on it, we just yeet it.
Well, really, if a bear comes towards you, you want to try and go inside. You just don't want to run away. Okay? You don't want to run away from there. Yes.
You mentioned that they're really good climbers.
Yes.
Do they climb on the houses? And it might sound...
No, it doesn't, because I'm laughing because I just was talking to Paula before we started,
Really?
and somebody sent me a picture that said, hey, I have a bear in my area, it's on top of my shed.
Yeah.
And it's standing on top of the shed, so I would have said it's not common, but it just happened today. So they can, but that's not typical.
So if we're grilling on the second story deck of the house...
You should be okay.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, if you have a bear that's being forceful at all, you're gonna call that in anyway.
Okay.
But yeah, you should be okay. The key to these kind of talks are to just make you aware of basic bear behavior and biology, to where you have a really healthy respect for bears, but not be afraid of them. Because you have a lot of folks that are really afraid, they don't understand how they work, they don't understand basic bear, like what should a bear do? 90% of the time they're gonna run away, or they see you and they're gone before you even see them. But this is just to give people a healthy respect to know it is a wild animal. You never really know what it's going to do. So here are the things that you do that in almost every scenario keeps you safe. This is what we recommend from people who work with bears all the time.
On your website, I can kind of just like...
Absolutely, and I've got...
Yeah, I did miss some of it, unfortunately, but there's a recap, because I want to make sure we get all the information.
And I've got a brochure that will take you right to the website, and you can pull up all of our brochures, all of the educational videos, all that kind of stuff.
Everything, from the garden to the goats and the dogs
Yep,
and the livestock.
it's on the website.
Okay.
We have a great website for that kind of stuff.
Okay.
It even shares bears by bears by numbers, like where bears are and that kind of thing. It's a really nice website. So yeah, you can get everything you need from there. How to scare that bear. That's something we really want people, gosh, when I first started as a contractor, we would say, bears in your yard, leave it alone, it's going to go away. Well, now we've had to become more proactive as the bear numbers grow and we get more people. Now we say, make some noise. The bear is just lounging in your backyard. We don't want it to be comfortable doing that. So make some noise. If it may not get up and run, but we don't want it just getting comfortable hanging out like that. So human dominance is big. With a lot of bears, you bang pots and pans, you yell at it, the bear's like, oh, that's no fun, and it leaves. Motion light or alarm. That's the air horn on the far left. This is a water scarecrow right here. It attaches to a garden hose, and if you have an area where you know bears are coming, you attach it to your garden hose, you choose the arc, and once it's turned on, anything that walks into the arc of that gets squirted for 30 seconds this way. And bears don't like to be surprised. This here is a critter getter, little black box. You can buy them on Amazon. They make noise, low and high, and motion detected. So if it's an area, we use this a lot, if it's an area like a bear is constantly walking past, I don't know, a tree. Put it on the tree, and once it's turned on, if a bear walks past there, it's going to yell at it, make some noise. Again, they don't like to be surprised, so you're just trying to find ways to get it to move off of its normal path. Bear spray is great. If you live in a bear area or you like to hike or recreate outside, bear spray is really something you should have. You can paintball bears. Obviously, you're aiming for the backside or the hips. You don't want to aim for the face or the body where you could injure them, and you don't hit cubs. slingshots, air horns, and firecrackers. Okay, if you use a firecracker, and you know, anytime you hear a talk like this and someone says a caveat, there's a reason why there's a caveat. If you use firecrackers, you want to make sure it's between you and the bear, and you don't throw it behind the bear. That sends the bear right towards you. Okay? Yes?
So this is for deterring bears that are awake and present and moving around. What do we do? Like, it happens a lot in my neighborhood where bears make a day bed and they're just kind of snoozing in the bushes.
Really? Yes, it happens. It happens. I would still be making noise from a comfortable distance. When the bear's not there, that's a perfect place for a critter bear. So the next time it shows back up to lay down in its bed, it's getting hammered with a light and noise.
Okay.
Yeah, you can do things like that, but definitely you can paintball it, you can slingshot, you can use a slingshot. But if you have one that's hanging around and you're noticing the normal ways aren't getting rid of it, call FWC.
And you guys come out and,
We'll either talk you through it, we give a lot of technical advice on the phone, and if it's warranted, they'll send a contractor out on yourself, and we'll go walk through, okay, why is this bear hanging out? What are ways we can help you? What are things that we can do?
if we were to call, and you say, okay, can you help us as best as possible, kind of bear-proof the area? You can kind of, okay, we'll buy this thing, buy that thing, and do you come and check up, make sure these things are set up properly? I didn't know about the electric fence.
Only if
for the
you want us
ghost
to.
tent. Okay, well, yeah, I do.
Absolutely, if you want a contractor to come out, you can certainly ask, hey, we've got these things, and we just like somebody to come out and look at it for us.
Okay, that's good to know.
Mhm, yeah. Did I cover that well for you?
Yeah, thank you.
I love this video. It's one of my favorites. I hope it plays. It may not. If it doesn't, it's okay. But this is human dominance. This just shows you how a bear should behave. Normal bear behavior. No? Okay. Don't get to watch that one. What happens though is you hear a husband over here, and you know it's a husband because he says, hey, honey. And she comes around and he says, let me get into the house. I don't want him to come after me. And she walks around that corner, get down, get out of here. And she yells, and the bear is like, and just takes off through the yard. And all she's doing is yelling at him. Okay, so human voice really works well on a lot of bears. Bear spray, I've got a sample container over here that you can just look at. There's nothing in it. If you hike or you recreate, it's really something you should have. Or if you have significant bears in your area, it's easily accessible. You want to make sure you keep it like up here on a backpack, on a hip. Like we're required when we're out to either have it on a belt or something, so that if we need it, we can get to it quickly. You want to aim just below the bear's face. Sometimes you can do it a zigzag. Sometimes you can do it at the feet and up, and it comes out as a big red cloud. It's capsaicin, it's super strong, and it comes out on the red cloud. And because their nasal passages are so sensitive, it plugs them up, and they're miserable for a period of time while you get away. But you have to be careful about the wind direction. Now, if you have to use it like a bear's coming at you, honestly, you suck it up and you're going to get yourself bear sprayed, and it's really 45 minutes that you never want to go through, but it's going to make you cry, you're going to be uncomfortable, but you saved yourself from a problem with the bear. But if the wind is blowing the right direction, it doesn't hit you, it hits the bear, and you can move. Okay? So definitely, and it's more effective than a gun. I remember when I first started this job, someone told me, my first day in fact, bears don't like to die. And I was like, okay. Adrenaline's running, people have a gun. I mean, we'll hear from time to time when to shoot the bear if it doesn't stop this, or if it keeps coming around to shoot it. Or people pull out a gun to shoot it, and adrenaline is, I mean, even a good shot in that kind of mode can't kill a bear. Then you've just really injured one or made it mad. But shooting a bear, typically, they don't like to die. And they will, I mean, it's just one shot normally doesn't do it unless you're a hunter. So at that point, you've lost time, and it's still moving, okay? So bear spray is a way to physically stop it because it can't continue to move forward because it can't smell and see for a period of time, so you do. FWC policy, so you ask what happens if you call. If you call, you talk to a wildlife assistance biologist, that's their title. They talk you through all different kinds of, if you've got a coyote, what do you do for these kind of things. If you call about a bear, they're going to say, well, you need to make sure you secure your trash can, you do these kind of things. That's just typical. If it's beyond that, and you're like, well, I've talked to someone and I've already got my trash secured, then it escalates it to another level. We really have a big emphasis though on personal responsibility. If someone calls and says, I have a bear and it won't leave and I want you to come get it, I just want you to take it away. Why not trap and relocate? We do trap and relocate. But number one, if a bear is there and it's coming for attractants you have, if we remove a bear, another bear will come to take its place and get into the exact same attractants. So personal responsibility, we would really rather work with you to fix the problem than to just, we can't remove every bear from the forest. There's no place to put them. So, if you call and say, hey, I've got a bear that's doing this, sure, we may go through step and step and step and step. If you fixed all of those things, and a bear is still around, we may trap and relocate a bear if you've done all of these pieces. But if you haven't done any of those things and the bear is still there, if we just remove a bear, another bear moves in. So that's why the personal responsibility part. And quite honestly, people know they live in bear country. It is a responsibility if you live there that you know what to do and how to live safely with bears. And it really is not, it's really not difficult. So when I trap and relocate, we do. It's a case-by-case basis. If it's a bear, though, that has continued behavior and we're seeing it like really as a public safety threat, we're not going to relocate that bear. Because if it's a bear that really has lost the fear of humans, really is not deterred by a lot of things, there are things in our policy, in FWC policy, that if a bear does this, it's automatically not acceptable and we will set a trap for that bear. If you have a bear that's really used to already causing trouble or it's already breaking in, we have bears that break into houses sometimes, and we have bears that do these behaviors, why would we move that to another area? It's just going to do the same thing in the new area. 50% are a repeat offense, they come back again. 70% return and wander, or wander back to the same spot, or we move them to the forest, they're trying to go south and they get hit by a car trying to go south. And people want us to put them, take them to the forest. Well, there's no empty areas left. And bears are, they are territorial from the standpoint of there's something called a carrying capacity. You can only have so many animals in a space at a time. It's sort of like deer. Deer, when you get too many deer start to starve. There's just not enough food for them all. So for us just to pop a young male bear into an area where we know it's already highly populated, we may be signing the death sentence for that bear as well. So it really is one of those things where if people do the right thing, bears can stay safe, we can coexist without a problem, and we just teach people what to do, how to do the right thing. Yes?
Like, some people may say that hunting and stuff is bad when in many cases where we don't hunt in an area, it's overpopulated, disease spread, and then a bunch of stuff dies.
That is correct. Did you guys hear that about hunting?
Yes.
Well, on the other, there are diseases out there. Deer have chronic wasting disease that, is being studied now and that kind of thing. So, yeah, and hunting versus no hunting, that's a big topic. People are very passionate on both sides of the topic. But the one thing you can look at is we all want to do the right thing for bears. So that's where we come in and we're like, okay, we all want to be able to live responsibly with bears. Feeding bears is illegal. Intentionally feeding bears or unintentionally feeding bears. And this happens more often than you would think. But even if you could technically be fined, if you have a bear that is constantly getting into your trash can and you don't do anything about it and you live in an area where it's the state code, administrative state code, you can be fined for that because intentionally or unintentionally feeding is the code. Okay. So you asked the first time you would most likely get a warning. Hey, this is not okay. They take your driver's license or whatever information down. The second time you can get a letter of noncompliance with a fine. And then it goes all the way up to misdemeanors and that kind of thing. Felonies. Receiving and reporting complaints, you can call on your neighbors anonymously, and while this sounds bad, if you have a bear in your area that you think is learning bad bear behavior, and you have neighbors that are not doing the right thing, you can actually call that in anonymously, and they will send someone out to sort of take a look at the area and try to talk to people. They don't need your name. You give them the location. We have people call in different businesses who have bears in their dumpsters and stuff. We have neighbors who, I have a bear, they'll call and say, I have a bear in my yard every night because my next door neighbor's leaving their garbage out. I mean, you can do that kind of thing. That's gonna be on your brochure.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, don't have to worry about it. No, the brochure, you're gonna have all of this. You're good, I promise. So scare and secure. It takes 2 to 4 weeks for the bear to actually learn that the attractant is gone. If you mess up one time, if you have bird feeders out, and you're like, oh, okay, bear's been gone for a while, you put the bird feeder back out, and bear shows up, you gotta wait another 3 to 4 weeks again. Scare that bear, it really is, you wanna make noise so the bear is not comfortable. Even if the bear doesn't turn and run away, you wanna do things where the bear finds it easier doing something else than hanging out at your place. Okay? And the bear will return periodically to check, so you do want to be vigilant. Vigilant. Yeah. Who and when should I call about a bear? If a bear is far away, it's easily scared away, it's in a tree, it's just standing there, or it's passing through. If you come out and you find scat, that's the fancy word for bear poop. If you find scat, tracks or scratch marks on trees, anything like that, it's eating natural food sources. Enjoy from a safe. That's normal bear behavior. Something where you're going, okay, not really comfortable with this, the behavior is changing a little bit. If a bear is not scared or not moved away by loud noises, if you see it eating food and garbage, pet food, whatever, when people aren't present, or protecting food and cubs, either charges or blocks things because her cubs are there, this is where it's a perfect time to call FWC. You start to see these behaviors change. Now you're starting to see the behavior is not natural bear behavior. It's starting to make a pivot. You will hear from a lot of activists and other people that say, don't call FWC because they're always going to come out and kill the bear. That is not true. If we get calls here where, hey, I've got a bear and they're coming back pretty frequently now for my garbage, I've got this stuff going on, that's when we can do different kind of deterrents. We can tell you different things to do. If the bear is, depending on the situation, if the bear is one that needs to be relocated, we can come out and haze, which is like paintballing and there are things we can do at this stage to try and get that bear from going any further along in that unnatural behavior. Does that make sense in that process? So if something makes you uncomfortable, you do need to call. I know that a lot of social media nowadays will tell you not to do that, but that's the safest way for you and for the bear. Threatening behavior. If a bear is now approaching people or pets, it's lingering near the areas, it's entering a car, it's entering a tent on a campsite or in your backyard, it goes into a mobile home, or it comes through your kitchen window, physically makes contact with a person, or if it's just eating and you're very close to it, that's not normal bear behavior. Okay? Bears should still have that healthy respect and fear of humans. So you're going to find a safe place and call FWC. Okay. There we go. Questions? I know, it is bright. Any questions on anything we've covered? Okay, so I've got stuff over here. I've got some swag with me. You can take a look at a bear skull. Now, Bernard is the bear that was hit by a car. He was hit years ago, so he's in a little